Welcome to the Outliers podcast, celebrating the people, the skills, and the tools that create stories worth reading. A presentation of Outliers Writing University, where tomorrow's authors learn the craft.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series in our program Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle. Kathy is off today. I think she's taking a mental health day or something. But anyway, so we have two wonderful friends returning with us today who have been guests on here before with their amazing previous book. And Meredith Lavender, Kendall Shores, welcome.
Thank you.
Jinx, thanks for having us.
So what is new with you guys? What you just got this book, and the other one did exceptionally well, I know. And so now you followed with this. What are you working on now? I know you're moving on. You working on the next one?
We are, yeah. We're really excited to say that we're working on another Winter Park mystery. So we've got more in store. The same way that Perfect Life is sort of a continuation of Happy Wife, but with a fresh point of view. Book number 3 will be a similar jump in point of view, but staying with that friend group and exploring this time a cold case.
Yeah. Well, I love the settings of stories, and you guys chose Winter Park. And why don't you tell people exactly what Winter Park is all about, because it's not typical Florida.
I think we have two unique points of view. Growing up in Winter Park, my Winter Park may not be like Meredith, so I think it's fun that we both get to infuse our voice into the world. But Winter Park is Central Florida, so it's about 40 minutes from the theme parks, but you wouldn't know it from the way that the oak trees are draped over brick paved roads. It looks almost like a New England town, but the climate is certainly different. And there's 7 lakes running through the are you getting a little bit of feedback?
I am, just a little bit.
Up all of a sudden, but I'm getting an echo. I'm so sorry.
I can barely hear it, so carry on.
Okay. So it's got a New England vibe, but definitely a different temperature. There's 7 lakes that are running through the town in a chain of lakes, and so it has this real coastal, but uniquely Florida and really specifically Winter Park kind of vibe to it.
And Meredith, what's your take on it that made you decide to set your stories here?
Came from Kendall. She approached me to write the first book together. The setting in her world, in her head, and so for me it was really fun to kind of discover it first really on the page and do things she told me. And then when I finally got to go myself, it was, I love traveling, I love going places, and I love, so much of storytelling is that, being able to see things, and so when I got to see it, I think for the second book, knowing the vibe myself, I think was kind of fun. And a different experience from the first book. And so much of it, like I said, is because it was Kendall's, where she grew up and where she's from. I think a lot of the Winter Parkness is kind of connected in her head.
Cool. Yeah, let me ask a little bit about your process. I think we talked about this before, but as collaborators on a story, obviously it's like a marriage, and there's good, and there's bad, and there's ugly, and everything going on. How do you guys? What's the logistics of how you put a story together? Do each of you take like a character and write that part, or do you alternate scenes? I've heard it done 1,000 different ways. How do you guys work together to generate a story that you like?
I think it comes down to who has a really clear perspective on the scene. So Happy Wife, it was there. This is probably not a process that could have existed before Zoom and collaborative documents, but we have the opportunity to tap into a document at the same time and kind of, I think I understand what this is. I think I understand how it feels, and go where that energy is. So we have the visibility to each other's work, and I think Meredith says this: nothing is ever turned in fresh because we both have the opportunity to review and edit it. So we try as much as we can to really follow where the energy's going, and who's got a good handle of whatever the story is, or the scene, or the character, like you said. I love, there was an author who was asked, like, how do you write a book? And they had written maybe 6 or 7, and they were like, I have no idea. And I think the book is really different. And so the collaboration process looks different every time, but it always just comes down to, like, what is the right and best way to serve the story?
Yeah, and I think because Kendall and I both come from such collaborative backgrounds, her kind of, and we talked about this before, her corporate communications background and working with the team to tell a story, and my background in television and very much a team sport, I think that brings about, it's easier to think about writing something with somebody else, whereas people who've always been solitary writers, it might feel foreign or not unachievable, but like a harder road to go down.
Yep. Yeah.
No.
I understand that completely. Well, let's talk about Perfect Life a little bit, because this is another great story. I and you guys know, I so much enjoyed Perfect Wife. I mean, it was just one of those stories that grabs you and won't let go. Great characters and great everything. I mean, it's I just loved it, and this is no different. So I always tell people, how are these stories? You got humor in it, you got suspense, you got romance, you got knives out, you know, conflicts going on, and it's set in this wonderful environment. So with Perfect Wife, it you're constantly on your toes trying to figure out, where did this story come from? Which one of you dreamed this one up, and did you go back and forth as to what it's really going to be about?
Yes, to all of the above.
Yes.
I think,
Yeah.
but no, I think we were. I think if memory serves, kind of, I think we were out for a walk, or we were on one of our mini Zooms or whatever, and it was just that moment of like, the next book has to be Estes, because she's such a kind of pivotal, important character in the first book, and there's enough kind of seated mystery about her, why she landed in Winter Park with her husband Beau, and it just felt like there was a thread to pull there. So I think we kind of both were like, yeah, that could be really, really fun to change, stay in the world, stay with these characters, but have a new point of view character to kind of run a story through.
I think that's right. I think Esty in Happy Wife shows up with so much pizzazz and so much energy. You're just desperate to know what the look behind the curtain is. And it was really fun and difficult. I'll go ahead and offer a branch to writers who are working on their sophomore book. It was harder than Happy Wife. And you asked if you'd gone back and forth on many rounds. There were so many different iterations of what the story was before it became what it is. Because as a character, Esty is a lot more guarded. And so getting to the bottom of why she would be so guarded, what choices she's made to get her to the position that she's in today. Credit to our agent, Alexandra Machinist, and our editor, Natalie Hollick. Both of them had a hand in helping us tease out this really complicated character. So it was complicated, but we're really happy with where it landed.
Yeah, Esty is a great character, and of course she's got secrets within secrets and a past that's a long ago in a galaxy far, far away that are haunting her. And I won't say any more than that, but if you want to say anything on that, you can. I don't want to give away too many spoilers on the book. I want people to buy it and read it.
No. We had seeded in Happy Wife the first kind of seedling of Esty, and the fact that maybe their exit from California was funky. And so I think for us, the fun, it was a tricky book, but the fun of it was kind of figuring out what that was and what would also speak to a character like Esty, who has such a hard external shell and who fronts and presents in such a specific way. Like, what's the thing that could kind of turn her world upside down? So I think we had a lot of fun unpacking that and figuring out how do you kind of expose who she really is when something crazy externals comes from the past forward.
Yeah, and she's sort of the anti-underdog. Like Nora was an absolute underdog where she knew nobody was going to believe her, nobody was going to, stake for her. And I think in the case of Esty, part of what made it so complicated was that she doesn't want anything. What she wants is to be left alone because she has managed her life into this very perfect tower. And that comes with choices and consequences as she learns. But really kind of breaking into it, she thinks she has it all together and life is pretty perfect.
Yeah, and on the surface it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as is everything in Winter Park. We are learning that. Esty is a great character, and we really love her. But one of my favorite parts of writing are other characters, minor characters and other characters, not necessarily the protagonist and the antagonist. I like other characters. They're so much fun. Which ones did you have the most fun with in this story? Was there a character that stood out and say, oh, yeah, this was a treat?
I think for me, Tippy was really fun to bring forward in this book because she like is a whisper in the first book, and then in this book, having a character like her who's a little bit larger than life and really doesn't care what anybody thinks and really kind of just does what she wants. For me, she was really fun to kind of spotlight a little bit more. I had a lot of fun with her.
There's so many that come to mind. Like I loved coming from a corporate background and seeing Esty in the corporate space and her relationship with Simon, her boss, and her relationship with Gemma, her kind of one confidant. I thought that was a really fun dynamic and familiar to my experience. Not everything, if you read the book, that Esty gets up to are things that I can relate to specifically, but I think that just that feeling of like the people that you're counting on as you devote your entire life to a corporate kind of machine, it was fun to revisit that.
Yeah.
So if Esty walked into the room where you two guys were sitting, what would she think of you?
Man.
I don't know. That's a scary thought. I'll tell you this. Whatever she thought of me, she would certainly tell me. She wouldn't pull any punches.
Exactly.
Which we love about her. I'll say another fun thing about being in the same world, but in a new point of view also, is we do get to introduce some new characters that were also really fun to write. Esty has a new neighbor, and there's a father-daughter duo, and it was just a fun new dynamic to bring into the world, and kind of have just a new fresh voice in the mix. So it's not just the people we know and love. There's some new folks too.
And of course, Esty has neighbor issues.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
which is part of the story here, which was fun. I talked with my buddies Paul Levin and Tim Malini all the time because we all write comedy, and there's a lot of humor in this. Do you when you're throwing these things backwards and forth and work out of them, do you ever say, no, that's not funny. That's not going to work. And
sometimes, right, because it's the whole thing of art is subjective, right? And so I might think it's funny, kind of might not, and vice versa. Or we'll be in the area code of a joke or an area code of the idea, but you're not quite on it. But I think consistently the things that still make me laugh in both books are consistently the things that made us both laugh, where it wasn't one of us trying to hard sell the other on the joke or the thing, but we both would look at it and be like, okay, that's funny. Yeah.
Well, it's what I like about it, and I like about the humor in your stories is the same thing the gentleman I talked about myself, is they're situational. The humor comes out of the situation. It comes out of the conflict. It comes out of a bit of conversation. It comes out of something going on between two characters. And often, Elmore Leonard told me this once. He said, Hollywood doesn't get me because they think that these characters are being funny with each other. And so they think that it has to be a laugh track that goes along with this. It's not a laugh track. These guys are dead serious. They just talk that way. And there's so much truth to that because some of the humor, it's like, yeah, this is funny, but the characters may not see it as humorous, as witty, as all that. They're just trying to navigate this situation. Is that how you guys kind of approach this?
I think there's a little bit of gallows humor in both books, right? Like where it's sometimes it's not that it's absurd, but it's so insane what's happening that you kind of have to find the comedy and humor in it, um, because otherwise, you cry. But I think for me, the comedy in these and the lightness in these books, I think both of them comes from the characters not being afraid to say exactly what they think, either vis-a-vis their inner monologue and what they're thinking, or what they outwardly say to each other. So I think there's a lot of comedy that comes from letting people behind the curtain of what a character's thinking, even if they're saying the complete opposite outside. And it's a glorious thing about, prose writing in novels, or certainly, voiceover in shows. It's nice when you get to actually hear what's in their head, and I think great humor comes from that.
Yeah, I agree. I think humor softens and rounds out everything. Whether it's a dead body, or it's some snarky individual, or it's some character that you really want something bad to happen to because you don't like them, But if you make them funny and you make the humor in there, I think it rounds off the edges, and that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. So this book is going to sell 1 million, I'm certain, and it's going to do very, very well. And you're working on the next one.
Mm-hmm.
How far along are you on that? Just so your fans can say, well, wait, when's this going to happen?
Next summer, we hope. I think we're in the ballpark of. There was halfway to a first draft, and then we realized, as you get when you were halfway to a first draft, we're like, oh no, that's not actually it at all.
Yeah. That's when you start screaming and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Exactly.
That's right.
100% of the time.
Yes. So I think we look forward to next summer, and hopefully by then we've got something juicy to share.
Well, good. Any other news? Anything else you want to let everybody know about that's going on with you, or with your work, or with this book, or with anything?
I'm trying to think. No, I continue. I continue to write TV, and as well as doing this, which has been totally delightful. Kind of being able to write in a lot of different ways. I am challenging myself to do some things that not scare me, but are not uncomfortable, just something new. So I'm working on a short. Kendall and I both have things that we're each working on individually, and I'm working on a short story and finding it to be kind of wildly delightful and bizarre. But that's been a fun process as well. And then Kendall's working on a project as well, which is super fun.
What are you working on?
I maybe other people can relate to this. I've found more and more the desire to escape to like a totally different world. So I'm trying my hand at something in the fantasy space, just as a means of, for right now, I would call it an emotional support book. Like when you get halfway and you realize that everything's coming apart, it's nice to have a different galaxy to escape to for a little bit before I touch back down to Earth.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. And I agree 100%. I think we were talking earlier, I just finished my first historical novel. My agent's reading now, and I've never written a historical, and it just flew. I started, and it took off.
I love
and
that.
I thought, wow, this is interesting, because I always wrote crime fiction. This is not crime fiction. This is historical, coming of age, love story, war story, all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's kind of fun. And short stories, Meredith. I love short stories. I love to write short stories because you can really experiment.
Yeah, it feels like the boundaries are just a little bit different than clearly screenwriting, but also like when you're trying to get to that 95,000, 100,000 word mark for novel or more. For a novel, it's very interesting to live in kind of a tighter, smaller structure, but still in the land of prose. I found that to be really it's a cool challenge. There are days I look at it and then I'm like, nope, and I close the window, and I was like, I don't want to look at that because it's different and it's hard. It's not it doesn't come to me the same way that other writing does. But I think it's an idea that I absolutely love, and it's one of those like, I got to get it out, so this feels like the way to do it. So yeah, having fun with that.
It is more focused. There's only an A plot. There's no B and C
there's
plots.
nothing else.
And it's about one thing. But it really focuses and strengthens your writing, because you have to be very economical with how you say what you say. And you'll write a scene, as you know, and you sit back and read it again and say, too many words.
Too many words.
I can change all this and make it a whole lot cleaner and tighter.
Absolutely.
I think it will spill over into your novel writing, I think. So your 100,000 word story is going to be about 82 now.
There you go.
But that's okay. That's
okay.
okay.
That's plenty. In this day and age, it's about what people's attention spans are. So hey.
All right. Well, where can people find Perfect Life? Where can they find you and find out about you and send you notes to say, "Oh my, I love this book"?
You can send all the kind notes to me. No kidding. We are on Instagram, Meredith and Kendall. We have a website, meredithandkendall.com, if you'd like to check out where you can pre-order books, but they're available wherever books are sold. We always prefer that you shop local and independent. And let's see, is that everything? Oh, Perfect Life is available July 7th.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
hope people check
Yep.
it out.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner.
Right around the corner. It's crazy. We're
Well,
excited.
cool. Well, as usual, it's just been wonderful to have you guys here. And next summer, we will have to do this again when the next one comes out, because it's so much fun. And until then, you guys keep at it, because I want to read them. And I've loved both of them so far. Perfect Wife, Perfect Life, fantastic books. Outstanding. So keep up the good work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
As a reader, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up this episode of Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series. And as you know, we'll be back with other interviews and other fun stuff. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.
The Outliers Podcast is a copyrighted presentation of Outliers Writing University. All rights reserved. Learn more at outlierswritinguniversity.com.